My name is Southmith Chintala. I'm the PyTorch Lead at Meta. And I want to talk today about how to really retrain and transform yourself as an individual or at your company to adapt to the rapidly changing AI landscape. So I'm going to cover a bunch of topics today: LLMs, PyTorch, a little bit of accelerators, but mostly data. What I'm going to cover in today's agenda is the AI revolution, exactly what's been happening in the last year, but also the past decade or so. And then I'll give you a little bit of mental model on how to think about large language models, or LLMs, which I will cover in a second. And I think that mental model can really help you understand where to use them and where to not use them. And then lastly, I'll talk to you about how you need to transform your business and how it runs now, urgently, because it's going to be a competitive disadvantage if you don't. All right, let's get started. I want to talk a little bit about what's been happening. And it might feel like not that large of a time scale, but in November 2022, OpenAI released this tool called ChatGPT that powers extremely powerful large language model AI called GPT that they built to a chat interface. What this does is it answers any question you have, whether it is a general knowledge question, whether it is specific to, say, programming, whether you want to understand how to do X, whether you want to write a better essay, whether you want to give GPT your essay and say you want it to be written in a better form, you want it to write a poem, you want to ask it how to direct a better movie, or like anything. It's a very general, and that's what makes it interesting and powerful. And since then, the world has adopted and tried to replicate ChatGPT. And there's a few other interesting things that has happened. Like on one end, there's these large general language models with like ChatGPT. And on the other end, there's been a huge revolution in being able to generate and transform rich media. So for example, AI today is able to generate videos given a text prompt. It is able to do them pretty well, and it's starting to get very interesting. AI has gotten pretty mainstream since 2012, and 2012 through 2017, we've had a particular formula, which is you take a deep neural network, or a certain kind or technique of AI, and you give it a large amount of human-labeled data, and it is able to take decisions that mimic what the humans were doing with respect to the outcome. So for example, you give it images, which are very rich media, and then you ask it to classify those images into what appears in them. It is able to do that with definitely with human-like ability, in some cases superhuman ability. And this has enabled a bunch of things, a bunch of industries, industrial automation, self-driving cars, and such. And 2018, they released Google actually released a neural network architecture called a transformer, and that dramatically improved these models and their ability to transform text. So the transformer model enabled a new formula, which is take the transformer model, and in the previous case, you needed a lot of human-labeled data, but in this case, you just take unlabeled data from the internet, any text you can find, and a little bit of fine-tuned human data where humans are doing question answering and stuff. And that gave state-of-the-art in a variety of ways in which you understand text, summarization of a larger piece of text to a smaller piece of text, machine translation, translating from one language to another, question answering. All of these things were enabled just by this simple formula since 2018. And as I mentioned, in 2022, we got to another additional revolution, which is we added another step called reinforcement with human feedback, or also called as RLHF. And that enabled another level of intelligence and ability to communicate effectively with humans, building assistants such as ChatGPT and allowing various other kinds of enablement. This is a fundamentally transformative and important technology, and we at Meta have been doing democratization of AI for the past decade or more. And so we've been thinking, hey, maybe we should build and release into the open a bunch of this technology so that it can be democratized faster and in more equitable terms. That is, people can take this technology and use it in the way they want without having a particular company or trying to control how they enable this product or try to extract more value or rent out of the equation. So we've basically been thinking about doing this, and it's been like vastly successful, and I'll talk about how. Like, what we released is a model called Llama that can do is a conversational agent that can do a variety of tasks, from writing you a product description to giving you a rough design to completing sentences to explaining a bunch of history or knowledge and so on. It is vast in what it can do. And so Llama is an open source large language model that was released earlier this year. And it is completely open for people to use. And the licensing terms of Llama were initially released as non-commercial. And afterwards, we modified the license to allow commercial usage as well, as long as certain terms are met, such as your company has less than 700 million users, which is practically 99.99% of all companies on there in the world. And in February, Llama was released, and in July we released Llama 2, which set state-of-the-art in open language models that are available. And in August, we released an additional model called Code Llama, which specifically on code tasks, it reaches state-of-the-art or near state-of-the-art on coding development kind of tasks, almost at parity with commercial models themselves. And all of this is open, right? Llama 2, our most powerful model as of today, is available for download in 7 billion, 13 billion, 70 billion configurations, depending on how much intelligence or how much effectiveness and accuracy you would like. And it was trained on 40% more data than Llama 1. And as I mentioned, Llama 2 is completely open, only restricted in a very small way to extremely large companies. It is free, and it is pretty effective and versatile, and it has gone extensive safety evaluation tests. So it is fine-tuned to be responsible and safe. As this chart shows, the safety evaluation results for Llama 2 parallel with some of the best commercial models out there. So the other thing I want to quickly talk about is the AI revolution in the last decade has been powered very effectively, and in recent years, largely powered by a technology called PyTorch. And what is PyTorch? And the reason I'm talking about it is both that it goes within the theme of open source projects that are enabling AI so that you can use it effectively, and also that it's one of the fundamental engines behind all of these things that I just talked about. PyTorch is a NDRA library similar to NumPy, but it has advanced features that enable it to run on GPUs, that enable it to run things like neural networks. And it has been very effective to power a lot of this AI revolution, used in over 600,000 open source projects with a 20% year-over-year growth, even at this scale. And it's been driving state-of-the-art AI research, with over 60% of AI research implementations choosing PyTorch over any other package. And the closest other package holds a market share of 5%. So it's largely dominating in both industry and AI research. Within the industry itself, there's professionals on LinkedIn. There's like tens of thousands of people who say they use PyTorch, and there's 3,000 new jobs listed right now which require PyTorch. And PyTorch was started at Meta, along with a bunch of other companies, and largely funded by Meta for the past few years. And we just moved it last year to a truly open governance under the umbrella called the PyTorch Foundation. And the founding members are listed here. And the reason I bring it up is because I do want to welcome Snowflake to the PyTorch Foundation. I heard they're joining soon, or by the time I deliver this talk, they would have joined. And I really welcome them because they play a critical role within the overall data science, data analysis ecosystem, especially critically like powering how data is stored and transformed for a large number of businesses. And them coming in and joining the PyTorch Foundation shows how critical they are to PyTorch and PyTorch to them, and how together they're going to help push forward AI. I want to shift gears a little bit. Now, I talked about a lot of advanced AI that has appeared in the last few years, especially the last year, especially large language models, also shortened as LLMs. And I want to give you a mental model of where to use them effectively and where to not use them. So one of the ways in which you can think of LLMs is they are like unlimited number of limited intelligence, large knowledge models, which are also good and eloquent communicators. So they're good at doing tasks rather than projects. They're good at like automating some small part of your workflow while you oversee the results and make sure they're correct, rather than automating entire tasks for you. So they accelerate your workflow rather than try to replace you. So one thing you should think about is like where to use them. You should use them for stuff you know but don't remember. For example, you always forget how to parse files or plot commands or how to write that SQL query. And there you would want to use them to quickly like give a rough answer, which might or might not be correct. And so because you already know it but don't remember it, it's easier to like look at it and verify whether it is correct or not. And it's really important to remember that LLMs in general don't know when they are wrong. So you need to know, or you need to be in the loop to verify. And that is a critical way in which you should think about how and where to use LLMs. Even the best state-of-the-art LLMs today are still wrong in a multiple percentages of time. So like, you do not want to put them in complete automation schemes yet in their current stage. So use it to accelerate your workflow, not to automate you. use it for stuff that you don't remember, and use it for brainstorming. It can give you a bunch of ideas as you're. It's like using Google search, but way more effectively. Use it for doing some baseline work. Hey, like, can you quickly write me code to do a logistic regression on this data? Stuff like that. So you can use it as a way more effective Google search, and you don't need to like double click through a bunch of links to find a similar situation as yours. So lastly, I want to talk about how you should use LLMs to transform how you operate as a business, as an individual, as a data analyst or a data scientist, and so on. So from what I understand, today's business insight pipelines start with a business unit or a team generating data. And that data goes into a warehouse. And then a decision maker, the CEO or an executive or a manager or anyone who's a decision maker, asks a question. They ask, hey, why is the production line slowing down? Why did our sales slow down? Any question that they want to ask. And then that goes to a data analyst or data scientist who then pulls the relevant data from the data warehouse and then cleans the data using tools like Pandas and a lot of manual cleaning. And they need to understand this data. And then they transform the data in a way that effectively answers the question. And sometimes they use AI there. And like as of today, mostly they use scikit-learn or XGBoost, for example. And they then present the transformed data in a way that is understandable by the decision maker. So they have better visualizations or plotting or narratives that make it easier to understand what insight was gained from the data. Now, one of the challenges of today's businesses, especially traditional businesses, is most of what they store in the data warehouse is categorical data. Sheets that capture the various states of these teams or the various parts of the company's processes, and they're often very abstract concepts. And if you think about what I talked about in my the first part of my presentation, we rarely, like, the most effective things the advanced AI models can do is do a lot of interesting things on natural language, on images, on videos, and so on. And somehow, like traditional businesses, because of historical needs and reasons, don't really log raw data into the data warehouse. So now when you're trying to gain advanced insights into about your business, you don't have the data to gain those insights in the first place. So step one really is to start warehousing not just categorical data that most businesses already do, but also rich data. So that in the second part of the process, when someone, decision maker, asks a question, there is that data that can provide that insight. And the second thing I'd say is integrate LLMs into your business processes deeply. It can accelerate every part of your business process, including the process of answering questions when you're looking for data insights. But it can do much more, as I described in the second section of how to use LLMs effectively. I want to give a couple of examples. One example that was just published mid-November is ChipNemo from NVIDIA. What they did is they took every single company document they have, every single document that has the intelligence and the insights and the knowledge that the company has built up over the last 30 years. And they train an LLM to really compress all that data into a chatbot. So now you can actually, for example, ask within NVIDIA, you can ask questions that you would have had to ask a bunch of people and then find out that they're not the right people, and then ask some other person, and so on, and keep hopping until you find the right information. Instead, now you can actually just ask this chatbot, and it'll pull up the right information across all the context that the company has built in a way that is better than search engines have. Another example of a company is Meta. We built like specialized Llama 2s that were fine-tuned, that were tuned further with a lot of internal context, a lot of internal data, internal documents, notes, and so on. And it can provide the same thing. It provides a lot of our engineers and various functions with the ability to quickly pull the right answers, right data, especially if it's available from across the contextual intelligence of the company. This is something that has that has been getting very effective. The most common thing people do in this space across board, for example, both the NVIDIA example and the Meta example, is they take our state-of-the-art open source model, Llama 2, and they fine-tune it on their own internal context, and companies are then deploying it. You can use various companies or providers that are specializing to do exactly this, such as MosaicML, such as Hugging Face, and so on. They make it very easy to do this process of just uploading your documents, and then they give you an intelligent, limited intelligence, but highly knowledgeable chatbot. And that accelerates your internal processes greatly if you train your employees to use it. So to summarize in one slide what I'm proposing you do, you should take a Llama 2 open model and then fine-tune it on a lot of your company's internal context. And you should pair it with a package like LangChain, which adds retrieval augmented generation, which basically what it means, it helps the model ground in more factuality instead of hallucinating certain things. And then you should go and accelerate various processes within your business, such as data science, development, marketing, to use these LLMs, such as Llama 2 and GPT. Well, with that, I'd like to thank you for listening.